Hola, buenos días.
Buenas tardes, buenas noches.
This is Barb.
And this is Estela.
And welcome to
Cafecito.
and Crime. So today's episode will be brought to you by me. This is a pretty big case, so I'm pretty sure that you've heard of it, pero, I'm hoping that you at least learn something that you had not heard about. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about Miss Ashley Wallace. So Ashley Wallace is, at this moment that I'm going to start my story, waking up in the hospital.
Okay.
After would have seemed that she had a little bit of too much drinking at night, and she was with her mom. Mm-hmm. Her mom called 911 to tell them that her daughter was vomiting and that she had taken some pills and that she had left a letter.
Oh, I think I know this case.
Yeah. It seems that she had tried to kill herself. Mm-hmm. So, if you want to listen to the rest of the story, go ahead and grab your cafecitos.
And let's get started.
So, I have a few, ¿cómo se le llaman? Facts about Clay. No había mucho, but the story takes place in Clay, New York. Okay. So, Clay, New York is about an hour from Syracuse, New York. Mm-hmm. So, they kind of put them together always, but there wasn't a lot of information, but I did get some. They're basically just saying that they're really rich in natural culture and numerous other resources. It's the 17th largest town in New York State, and it's actually the second largest distinct municipal. I don't know how to say this in English. In Onondaga County, and is home to 60,000 residents per the April 1st, 2020 census. It also said that it has, basically that's it. Literally. There was nothing.
It's not that big of a small town, but it's not a big town, but it's still a small town for 60,000 people, you know?
It's 60,000 people, and it was originated in 1719 by one of the,
it's been around.
It's been around.
It's been like a good while.
It's an older place. So, we're going back to Clay, New York.
Okay.
To the woman by the name of Stacey Caster.
Okay. Like castor oil? I know we were talking about castor oil a lot recently.
So she lives at home with her daughter, Ashley, and with her other daughter, which is younger, Brie. So apparently her past life says, she was very intelligent. She was looking into going into law school. She was just somebody that was trying to be somebody in life.
Stacey,
which is the mother of Ashley. She was born on July 24, 1967. Middle class area. Most of Clay is Caucasian, mm-hmm. So almost everyone around Clay is middle class, mm-hmm. And she was very into her school studies and that kind of thing. Stacey, in 1985, when she was only 17, is when she meets the love of her life, Michael Wallace. So Michael was known to party. That boy was a party boy. Mm-hmm. So he was in college. He was young, a teenager as well.
Having a good time.
He was having a good time. So according to Stacey, she said that after she met him, love at first sight.
Pero love at first sight for her or también para él?
Well, apparently for both of them, because they did end up getting married. And she said that after meeting him for a few minutes.
Oh, ya sabía
que se iba a casar.
Wow.
That's kind of a lot, though, a few minutes.
Some people do. It happens for some people. Some people just know.
I don't know.
I guess how this case is going to go.
We are talking about
somebody.
True crime. So they dated for about 2 years, and then that's when they had their first daughter in 1987. And that's Ashley. Mm-hmm. A few years later, they decided to get married. So they already were parents of Ashley, and they got married at Stacey's home in a quiet little ceremony. They were both very
were they still in college? Or
they were still in college.
Okay.
Stacey had the Mohawk area thing going on, and Michael was he was smiles, dude.
Mohawk?
Yeah, not the Mohawk, but party in the front, and
that's a mullet.
The mullet. That's what it is. My bad.
Like a Mohawk, Stacey?
Hey, whatever. So they both had mullets, and he had tattoos on his arms, and he was kind of like a wild child.
Tenía como el copete así bien
grandote. Ella tenía el copete. It was she was blonde, the whole bit. So they had the ceremony, like I said, at her parents' home, and not long after, they welcomed their second daughter, and they named her Brie, mm-hmm. in 1991. Stacey was working as an ambulance dispatch at a company while Michael was an overnight mechanic.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was working nights and, she was working days, but they were both working. They were both hardworking, young, and they were trying to, get their life together.
Yeah. It's like me and Christina. Christina's from 87 and I'm from 91.
Yeah, basically.
So,
you guys
were 4 years apart. Yeah.
This kind of brought some strain in the relationship between Michael and Stacey. Because pues él estaba de noche y sometimes she wouldn't be able to see him as much or didn't get help with the kids.
O las niñas tampoco no miraban a su papá que trabajaba de noche.
You could tell that Michael would favor Bree more than Ashley. What? And it wasn't like he had like, this is my favorite, pero ella se daba cuenta, okay, he's kind of favoring her more than the other. So Stacey was like, okay, well, then I'm going to make sure that Ashley doesn't feel bad. So ella también kind of,
would she call him out on it? And then that's what caused some kind of issues in the relationship?
It would cause some tension, right? So she started to kind of help Ashley not help, pero como le daba más atención a Ashley, estaban las dos, ¿verdad? Mm-hmm. And muchas de las veces she would even say that Ashley was her best friend. Mm-hmm. So I've called my daughter my best friend, but that doesn't mean that I'm not her mom. You know, you still have to kind of...
But you don't have two daughters.
Yeah, but I have a son. Yeah. So I can't say, because my son could be my best friend too.
Yeah, they both can. They're kids.
Yeah, they are. But the thing is, sometimes you need to know the limits. Hey, I'm your best friend, but it don't.
I'm your mom more than I am your friend,
right? Yeah. So the marriage was falling apart, so much so that there was rumors of the couple having extramarital sexual activities. Yeah. Around the Clay area.
Cada quien
por su lado. Yeah. Okay. So this brings us to November 1999. Stacey starts getting the idea of maybe getting a divorce of Michael. Okay. So she goes to her friend. Her friend tells her, you know what? Here's the information to my attorney. You should probably call him, but why don't you wait until after the holidays? Porque era noviembre, si va a ser diciembre,
Thanksgiving and then Christmas holiday, yeah. New Year's, blah,
so
blah,
le dijo ella, you know what, you're right. I probably should wait just for the sake of the kids.
The girls. Mm-hmm.
So she gave her, like I said, the information and everything passed by. Obviously, Bree and Ashley no tenían ni una idea. They had no idea what was going on.
They were still little.
So they kept it kind of quiet. But Ashley, in one of the interviews that I watched, she does remember that her mom started to act a little bit different. Like, dice que she was more aggressive, estaba más enojada. Like, she would pick out on things that they were doing wrong and stuff like that. Como que tenía, her anger, she was taking it out on them. Okay. I mean, obviously, she didn't know what was going on, but she said when her dad was around, it was even worse. Like, it was bad. And she also remembers that her mom was being a little bit more hard on both of them. She forgot about who was her favorite and all of that. Oh, okay. She was being hard on both of them. December 1999 rolls around. Now, December, it's cold, right? So,
it's New York.
Especially in New York. So, hay mucha gente se enferma de un resfriado, stuff like that. But David had a cough that he had been having for months.
Who's David?
David. Michael had been having a cough. So, they kind of start checking on him. Hey, you need to get checked porque tenía una tos de que no se le quitaba. So they took him to the doctor and he had just extreme tiredness, so he would lay down a lot when he was home. Michael started to go to the doctor more often and they would treat que tenía un ear infection. They would treat it. Nada. The cough was still there. And Ashley recalls that one day her and her dad were sitting kind of watching TV in la sala y que he started having a cough fit. Mm-hmm. Coughing. So bad that he started throwing up.
Oh, shit.
But then after he threw up, he kind of calmed himself down, got himself together. They cleaned up y pasó. But she said, I remember at that moment, my dad is not feeling well. Something is not okay. Stacey would tell everybody that he was just drunk, that he was just drinking all the time because he was known to drink a lot. Okay. He was one of those people that loved to drink. He loved his beers and stuff like that. But he denied it. He said, I'm not drinking. That's not what's wrong with me.
Especially being sick.
That's not. So on December the 24th, which is Christmas Eve, they do have dinner plans and they go over to Michael's family's house. Okay. To eat dinner. While they're at the dinner table, la hermana de Michael,
so la cuñada de
Stacey says, hey, brother, you don't look okay. She remembers him being really bloated de su face.
Oh, shit.
And he was so bloated that he looked like he was sweaty. all the time.
God. Yeah.
His hands, his feet were really sweaty and bloated. Y que le dijo, you know what? You probably should get checked out because this is not okay.
Como ya vete al hospital instead of going to the doctor, go to the ER or
exactly.
something.
Like you need some medical attention. But he, it's hard to get men to go to the doctor.
Yes.
If anybody that knows.
Yeah.
So él le dijo, yeah, I'll get an appointment. So he made an appointment, but it was a holiday, so
he had to wait until the.
So it brings us to January 11th. So Ashley comes home from school. She sees her dad like many other times asleep on the sofa. But ya tenía días como que dormía mucho, and she was like...
He was lethargic.
Yeah,
just
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So she didn't think too much of it. So she got home, calls her mom, and says, hey, I'm home. Así quedó. By this time, she's around 11, 12
So
years
now
old.
ya viene siendo, que se pasó el año nuevo. So it was 2000, right?
2000,
okay.
Yeah. She turns over and she sees her dad, and she's like, she recalls saying, I hear him make a weird noise. And when I looked over, I see him pull up his arm. Mm-hmm. And then that's the last time he moved.
Okay.
So when that happened, she calls her mom like, hey, something is not okay. You need to call 911. Le dijo a Stacey. So Stacey goes, calls 911. Y todo.
¿Y dónde estaba Stacey?
She was at work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Ashley goes and gets her sister, and they stand outside and wait for the ambulance and her mom. And Ashley remembers how her mom stood there, and she stood behind her, como like behind her legs, mirando over to her dad. And she says, I remember like it's yesterday that I saw my father's legs. They had turned purple, and his hands, where I don't know if he had been laying there for a while, or by the time she got home, he was already dead. So they did pronounce him dead at 38 on that day.
Wow.
So she also remembers that she was a half an hour with her dad sola. So she's like, if I would have known something was wrong.
Right.
Dude, you were 11.
Yeah. No, from 87 to 2000, she was 13.
She was 12, 13 por ahí.
Yeah.
But,
she's still little.
She was still little.
And then it's fucking 2000. Like,
yeah, like,
it's not like you have a cell phone and be like, I'm going to call 911.
Yeah. So she said, she's like, she regrets the fact that she felt like she could have done something for her dad. So after that, she said that they tried to revive him, like I said, but no, they told him he was a goner. So Michael's family, while he was already taken, asked Stacey, hey, are we going to do an autopsy? Let's find out what happened.
Right. Because you don't know what happened.
You don't know.
Yeah.
And Stacey said, no, we're not going to have an autopsy. It's because Michael wouldn't have wanted us to put him through that. He didn't like needles. He didn't like get cut up.
Okay.
You know what we're going to do? We're just going to go ahead and pop a beer and just
in his honor
remember
or some
him
shit?
and party. Yeah.
Oh.
So Ashley doesn't remember that her mom cried at all. Like, no se acuerda que su mamá lloró, ni dijo, oh my gosh, what's going on? My husband, nada. She was not crying. But in her mind, she thought, well, maybe she's not crying because she doesn't want us to see that
her
she's sad, Which makes sense. You don't want to worry your kids. You don't want to make them feel bad themselves.
También a lo mejor
piensas,
okay, like, only some of us can fall apart at once,
So,
we'll have to be strong for my kids
correct,
or something.
Yeah. So Stacey did collect $55,000 from his insurance policy. And obviously they were saying that the reason that she was able to collect that money because he had passed away from a heart attack is what the report said. He had a heart attack. You're entitled to the money.
From the hospital, I guess, from
the
ambulance.
hospital, and here you go, because there was no autopsy done.
Right.
They just kind of like figured, I guess, or I don't know how that worked, or just based on the symptoms, they thought it was a heart attack. So they gave her the money.
Well, también porque he had been going to the doctor before constantly.
He had been going, que no se sentía bien, estaba cansado, so they're probably like, something happened.
He had been sick for a while or something.
So she did get that money. She renovates her home, and she takes her girls to Disneyland, kind of just to forget everything going on. Let's just go and have a good time. After that, Ashley does remember that she immediately started talking to other men, Stacey. Mm-hmm. So Stacey was on the internet, online, chilling, talking to other guys. I mean, she thought in that moment, she feels alone. I don't know. Other people kind of looked at it kind of weird because you had just lost your husband and, and such of like in your home, like, wow. So she changed jobs and she starts working at an HVAC company.
Okay.
So she starts at the company in 2001. And she was about 34 at the time. And at the company, when she walks in, all of the workers she was kind of like como la ¿cómo se llama? Secretary, la secretaria. Mm-hmm. Y le dicen, oh, come here so that you can meet the owner of the company.
Somebody tells Stacey.
Uh-huh. So she meets David Castor. And David Castor is the owner of the company, and he was a divorced man as well. Mm-hmm. He was around 40 at the time, so he was older than Stacey.
A little bit.
Not too much, but he did have a child. But his child was already grown out of his home, and like I said, they were divorced. So they kind of, she was a widow, he was divorced. They kind of got something in common, and they connected. Obviously, Bree and Ashley were like, "Bro,
whatever.
We don't want this guy to try to be our dad." You know.
Let's take a quick break. Persons of Interest is back, and it's bigger than ever.
That scream will echo in my head for many years.
Taser! 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 He's gonna shoot!
Oi! Shot fired! Shots fired! Shots fired!
Stay out! You got a gun on you!
He had the perfect aim.
I am absolutely stressed at that point. I have no idea where my officers are.
Persons of Interest available everywhere you get your podcasts.
Well, también because, I mean, it was 2001.
Yes.
Their dad had just passed away. Hay que decir el año.
Yeah. I mean, it took her a while to, I guess, renovate the house, and then they did all those trips and stuff. So, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, by the time she, settled in the new job and met this new person, they're like, oh, we're going to date.
Exactly. Not only that, but he was not shy of buying her gifts in front of everybody. Like, he would take her out to nice dinners, se tomaban fotos,
well, why would he? Because...
he was wanting to date her. They're both adults that were available, right?
Yeah.
So, David knew that Stacey had 2 daughters.
Right.
And he knew that she was also a widow. And Brian, like I said, they were not happy about this person trying to, quote unquote, replace their father. But he was like, hey, guys,
I like your mom.
I'm not wanting to be your dad. He's like, I have a child of my own, and I'm not trying to replace your dad. Your dad was your dad, and I am just here because I want to be with your mom, and I just don't really care what you think. You can be mad at me, but it doesn't matter. I'm still going to be here. Mm-hmm. So they kind of got over it, whatever it is. They started getting along a little bit. In August 16th of 2003, the couple gets married.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So it was pretty quick.
Well, 2 years, I guess.
Yeah. But they were shocked because nobody was invited.
Not even the girls?
The girls were invited, but not his son. None of his family knew that he was getting married.
They got married. Kind of eloped a little bit?
Kind of a little bit, yeah. So nobody knew, but none of his other kid didn't go to the wedding.
So, solamente la familia de él no sabía?
Sí, la familia de él. Pero la de ella sí sabía. Her dad was there. I guess her side of the family was there, but Daniel's son remembers that he had no idea, obviously, that he had gotten married. They didn't find out until after, and they had pictures and everything in their home.
Oh, shit.
And not only that, but he's like, I didn't even know they were in the process of getting married. He kind of, taken back from it because he's like, well, I had no idea. At this point, he really, like I said, he was a grown man. He's like, whatever, I don't care. Now, in the actual home, the girls were having a hard time with David there because he was one of those people that was my way or the highway. You do what I say. This is my home. You do what I tell you to do, and that kind of stuff. So the girls were not used to that. They had been without a father for how long it was. And then on top of that, their dad was their dad.
Yeah.
He was always working nights. So they weren't used to that. And Ashley remembers, and she recalls saying, I remember it was miserable. My mom and her husband were not happy unless we were not with them. When we were with them, they were miserable. I guess he was not happy, or they didn't like the fact that they were there.
That's so stupid.
But David starts to kind of warm up to them, and we're looking
eventually.
And Ashley remembers that when at her high school graduation party, David was so proud of her that he would look at her and the way that a dad would look at his daughter, just very proud. And she said, "You know what? I that's the way I would have thought my dad would look at me if he was alive."
Okay, so they just had a rough start.
It was just a rough start. The girls were young, dude. They were like teens,
barely teens.
So they're gonna act out.
Well, también like you were saying, they had been without a dad, but even with their dad, cuando their dad was alive, como dijiste, he would work nights. So they were when they were in the home de día, llegando a la escuela, there wasn't a man there.
No, not only no man, but there was no authority. Their mom was the only authority, and you would just, live your life the way you could until you saw your dad.
Yeah.
So she said that it was the the moment where she saw him as a doting father. She was very proud of him, and she graduated high school. And
he was proud of her,
excuse me. And she graduated high school and everything was great. Well, everything was great between the girls and David, but between Stacey and David, it was not great. They started having a hard time and they were growing apart.
So, but by this time, were they, ¿cuánto tiempo tenían juntos? Yes, maybe going on a decade? If esta Ashley was graduating high school, maybe?
If Ashley was graduating high school, yes. And that is around the time, about 8 years.
Yeah.
9 por ahí.
Yeah, going on a decade, yeah.
On August the 22nd, 2005, it comes around they had been together for a little bit longer, but then remember they got married later. So
then no, if it's in 2005, they were together for 4 years.
Yeah, 4 years.
Okay,
so it was going on their anniversary.
Yeah, I don't know where I got a decade from. Never mind.
And 911 gets a phone call from Stacey, and she tells 911 that her husband had been locked in his room for the past day, and that he's not opening the door. And she told the operator that they had gotten into a long fight, about 7 hours.
They were fighting for 7
hours?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't think I've ever fought for 7 hours. I mean, I've gotten mad for 7 hours, but then se me quita. Pero I've never fought straight for 7 hours.
You're not bickering for 7 hours.
No. I mean, I talk shit for a while. Like, me puto, and I'm like you're ugly or stuff like that.
Yeah, but for 20 minutes.
Not like a whole 7 hour fight. Like, I guess you can get mad at each other for 7 hours, but fighting for the whole 7 hours, that's a lot.
Okay, that's how it's implied, right?
That's exactly what she said on the 911 call. We had been fighting for 7 hours, and
he got tired of her ass?
No, he got upset, and he told me to leave the room.
So ella se salió del cuarto, pero él se quedó allá adentro.
Pero él se quedó. The reason that, according to her, he was upset was because he wanted to take her on an anniversary trip. It was going to be their anniversary. Y le dijo, let's go on a trip. Pero como ella casi didn't want to be with him anymore, she was like, we're all going as a family.
Oh, invitó a las niñas. A las girls.
Supposedly que las iba a llevar. Mm-hmm. Pero él dijo, no, I don't want to go with them. I want to go only with you. So supposedly, according to Stacey, that's where the fight started.
Okay.
And after that, she told him that I just left the room, and I left him in there. He locked himself in the room, and she tells the operator that he had been drinking a lot, specifically drinking Southern Comfort, which is weird to me because I wouldn't remember I wouldn't tell the 911, be like, hey, he's drinking this. Like, just get here. I'm not going to be telling you what my husband's, isn't that weird?
What's Southern Comfort?
Whiskey.
Oh, yeah. You would just say he's drinking whiskey. You wouldn't name
drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, ¿qué importa que sea whiskey, lo que sea, right?
Yeah.
So that was on Friday that they had gotten in the 7 hour fight. So she was calling them on Saturday, como quien dice, para hacerse Saturday en la tarde. Does that make sense? So the 7 hour fight had started since before the weekend on Friday. Y luego they fought for 7 hours, and then it was this time he had not opened the door. Ya tenía un día sin, according to her, opening the door. Mm-hmm. So initially the 911 caller is like, hey, would he have hurt himself? That's the first thing that they're asking her. Is he potentially a danger to himself? And she said, well, not really, but he did tell me one day that if I were to, first he tells me to leave, and then he tells me that if I were to leave, that I was going to be sorry for leaving. So kind of implying que sí se había matado el señor.
Okay, algo iba a pasar, algo malo.
Yeah. The operator also mentioned, do you know why he would be upset and not locked himself, not opening the door? And he said, she said, his father died about a month ago, and he's been having a hard time with his death. So after that, 911 says, okay, don't cry, because she was crying, quote unquote crying. He must be okay. We just need to go, whatever.
They were going to send somebody?
Mm-hmm. They do send somebody. They knock down the door, and they discover his body. So he's laid out on the bed, and he was not clothed, and he had been deceased in the room for looked like a while. There was vomit everywhere. Not only that, but there were on the nightstand there was a cup of green substance, mm-hmm. With another cup that had nothing in it, that had next to it a one of those cartones de cranberry juice, mm-hmm. And then on the floor there was a jug, a blue jug of antifreeze.
Okay.
So they were thinking, okay, so what's going on, right? Not only that, the Southern Comfort and all these things were on the nightstand. And the room was a complete mess. Like, estaba tirado el señor, like, on his stomach, vomit everywhere and stuff like that. Pero está todo esto como en el piso, shirts, t-shirts, like everything. It was like a mess, like
Un tiradero.
Un tiradero, yeah. They did try to revive him, obviously, but he was deceased. He was 48 years old. And based on what they saw around the room, they're like, well, was he drinking the antifreeze? Because it was in a cup, right?
Yeah.
So when they did the autopsy, there was antifreeze in his system. And they were like, well, did he do it on? Like, it was a whole bunch of questions started finding. So the detectives were like, let's look around the house, find out if there's something else that we're missing. So they started looking around the house. The kitchen looked fairly clean, like nobody had used it. Pero en el trash can estaba un turkey baster. ¿Sí sabes que es un turkey baster? Como de esos que usan para echarle la juice al turkey?
Yeah.
And it's like a long thing and it has like a squishy thing
it's like
on
a
top.
dropper.
It was in the trash can.
Yeah.
And it was also full of the green substance. So they were like, okay, so how did this turkey baster get used and why is it in the trash can, right?
If he never left the room.
He never left the room.
Right.
Stacey persisted. He locked himself in the room. There, nobody knew what he was doing. I had no idea. We kept knocking and nobody, whatever. So they said, okay, well, Stacey, can you come into the station so we can ask you a few questions? And once again, she was like, okay, I'll go and answer. At this point, she calls Ashley to let her know that, hey, they're bringing me in because así como si nada, like nonchalant, David is dead. So Ashley's like, wait a minute, how is this happening again?
Wait, was Ashley still living at home or she was away?
She was away because she was going to start college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So she's like, what do you mean that he's dead? Like, how can this be happening to me again? She says, I remember, like, how could this happen to me twice?
That's
and
fucked
so
up.
She's like, she was very devastated. And Ashley said that her mom wasn't upset again. Like, her mom wasn't upset, but...
Upset?
Meaning she wasn't crying, she wasn't saying nothing. She was just like, hey, Ashley, they're taking me to they're wanting to ask some questions. So, I mean, no estaba como triste, pues. I mean, her husband just died, Again. So here's where things started getting a little weird. David left everything to her.
Okay.
But he had a son.
Right.
And when they found out that everything was handed to Stacey, like his son said, well, I kind of feel like maybe he was mad at me. Maybe he didn't want to have anything to do with me. He was okay with it. Like, he didn't fight it. He was just like, well, maybe he...
I mean, how I don't know if you know this, but how... Their relationship, how was it?
Well, it was okay
at least between David and his son.
But, Stacey, she didn't care to have a relationship with him. So they pretty much gave her all of his money from his company. Not only that, but he had cars, he had property, he had boats, he had everything. And everything went to Stacey. And, his son was like, well, I really didn't
care for her. Yeah.
No, not only that, but he had never been, like, he was older, como quien dice, so he didn't really think twice about it. He was just like, okay, maybe he's just mad at me, which is really sad because...
And then you're just accepting it, that he was mad at you.
Yeah, like, he was mad at me.
That's sad. That is sad.
So that is really sad because that's your dad. And,
And tampoco you don't want to fight for material stuff because...
Yeah, because you're like, yo lo que quiero es a mi papá.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything to me.
You know? So guess what? Stacey started spending the money.
Of course she did.
She started taking her girls on trips again. And going here, going there, buying things, buying them clothes and everything like that. So in 2006, a new detective comes into the picture because at this time we're at standpoint. They're saying, okay, we're investigating, pero they're not really coming up at a standpoint in the investigation. So they bring a new detective into the picture in 2006. So it's about a year after. Yeah. Detective Spinelli.
Not Spinelli. From Reese.
Yes.
Ashley Spinelli.
Ashley Spinelli. It's probably her dad. You never know. I'm just kidding. So his name was Detective Spinelli, and he was able to reopen the case, go kind of like a fresh eye onto what was found.
Yeah.
Through the evidence that was given, he was able to find out that the baster at the edge of it had never been used at the top. No tenía like prints, pero de abajo it had David's DNA. Okay. Not only that, but he also found that there was the cup that I told you guys about in the beginning cuando se murió el señor que tenía el green substance. It was weird because sí tenía prints, but the prints were under the cup, not over the cup.
So somebody was grabbing the cup like this?
Por abajo, yeah. Instead of holding it like this. So if you're drinking it, you're holding it sideways. Right. But if the way that the prints were, estaban abajo del vaso.
You don't drink like this. You know what that reminds me of? A veces cuando un niño está tomando teta, se agarran así la...
Sí, ándale, igualito.
La varo.
Yeah. Not only that, but they did find out that there was a lot of inconsistencies in Stacey's story. She would say that her husband had been drinking all day and that was intoxicated since Friday, and when they checked his toxicology report, no había alcohol in the system. No Southern Comfort was in the system. So,
but she made a note to say that to the 911 operator. Yes. She named it by brand.
And then not only that, but I was thinking after I finished the case, and maybe we can go into it later, but like she was an operator, so she knew exactly what they were wanting to listen to, right? Like she was a 911 operator, so when she would call, she would say what they wanted to hear, right?
Yeah, she knew what to say.
So the district attorney, along with Detective Spinelli, stated that they needed to get more information about Stacey. So then they also were like, "Hey, let's
say that again."
So they were going to need some more information, basically. So they're like, "Well, let's go find out who her family is." Well, they look up her husband, previous, and he's dead.
Right.
So they're like, wait a minute, another dead husband? Let's look into this, right? This is not okay. On September the 7th, 2007, Detective Spinelli called Stacey into the police station by telling her that there was some stuff that they need to go over, saying, hey, we really need to close this case. Let's talk just to get these things, straight.
Cleared.
So next thing you know, they start asking her questions and they tell her, hey, we've exhumed the body of your ex-husband. We did find a huge amount of antifreeze in the system. And Spinelli asks her, and she's like, no, normal stuff. I don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah,
Well,
blah.
I mean, I don't think she'd be surprised that they tell her that because they found antifreeze when they entered the room. So, I mean...
No, but he's talking about his ex-husband. He tells them...
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. No, I get confused.
So they exhumed his body.
Michael's, not David's.
They checked his toxicology or his DNA. I don't know how that works or whatever. Blood. And they find out that... In his system, he had a...
Antifreeze también.
Huge amount of antifreeze.
Okay. I'm sorry. I got it confused. I thought you were talking about David and not Michael.
Entonces les dice, okay, pues le enseña la foto y le dice, look, there's 2 cups here. So can you tell, and this is a quote. They ask her, there's 2 cups here showing the picture of the crime scene, showing her the picture. He says, do you remember what glass did you use when you were pouring the cranberry juice? Le dice ella a Stacey. And she looked at it and she said, and I quote, well, when I poured the antifreeze.
She said
it. And then she's like, I mean the cranberry juice. And then she goes on to tell, so then detectives are like, what the hell just happened? She just said it, right?
Right.
And they're like, wait a minute. No. You're trying to frame me. You're trying to confuse me.
No, bitch. They literally just asked you a straight up question. Yeah. What cup did you use for the cranberry?
Y entonces le dice, no, you're wrong. And so she starts kind of having like a little moment of, I'm going to go crazy on you so that you don't ask me shit. Mm-hmm. So she gets up y se empieza a salir. While she's on her way out, she looks onto the table y ve that they had a picture of the baster, the turkey baster. Uh-huh. Y le dice, hey, what do you want that for?
It's an investigation,
y
lady.
Le dijo Spinelli, well, I mean...
It's evidence.
Are you going to answer a question or not? Y Spinelli was like, are you going to answer it or no? And she wouldn't answer. Y al último, she's like, and she just left. Okay? September the 14th, a week after she was at the police station getting interrogated by a detective, the investigators say, you know what, we're gonna tap her phones. Let's see what she's doing. They tapped her phones. Not only that, let me tell y'all something that I didn't know, but I got a lot of, not a lot, but some of the information from Bailey's story that she did on this case. And Bailey Sarian, if y'all don't know who that is, she's the queen of everything. So she said that she actually buried both of her husbands next to each other in the same cemetery.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, like los puso un lado del otro. And so the detectives went and they put taps on her phone. They put cameras to surveillance her outside her house and also in the ¿cómo se llama? Donde lo tenía enterrado, en el cementerio. And the only thing that they found out was that she never went because
She didn't care.
No, she didn't care. So then they start tapping the phones, and she's calling the ambulance again. And now, when she's calling the ambulance, it's when she tells them, hey, I need help. My daughter just drank a whole bunch of pills, and she is laid out, and she is out here unconscious. She's choking. And the thing that got me the most was in the 911 call, you can hear Ashley choking in the background. Like you can hear her struggling to breathe. And they ask her, is she alive? Is she conscious? And she's like, yeah, she's moaning. And she starts crying. And then she goes on, said, I'm leaning over her. It sounds like something's in her throat. Mm-hmm. And then she starts saying, OMG, oh my God, this is not happening to me. And so then obviously the investigators are on the phone listening
to her call
911.
Right.
So they were so close to get there. No se tardaron nada because they were already listening.
And they're already watching.
So they were like, whatever, we don't care.
We're just going to go.
Yeah. So they went over there, and she also told the operator that she was throwing up and that she had left a letter.
Okay, like a suicide letter.
She left a letter, and that her sister was in the room with her. Bree was in the room with her while all of this was happening, and supposedly the letter was there. So her mom did mention that once again there was prescription bottle and vodka that was by her bed, like in the floor. Mm-hmm. She's like, I don't know what happened. You know, there's a bottle of pills. And she said, I don't know what's going on. Why is she doing this? Blah, blah, blah. And so by this time, llega the police or the ambulance. Now there was a note. And in the note, it says, mind you, this note was typed.
Oh.
Typed.
Yeah.
And it says, Mommy, please do not hate me. And the letter goes on to confess that she herself had killed her father and her stepdad.
What?
Yeah. Not only that, but it did give details that nobody would have known. Because...
Except the person that did it, right?
Exactly. Especially the fact that she wrote on there that she had given David rat poisoning to finish the job. And when they checked David's toxicology, there was rat poison in his body. So they're like, what? So
did she do it?
It was 750 words, this letter that she wrote. And she even signed it off with her name.
That's like a fucking...
An essay.
It's an essay to get into Harvard.
When the EMT arrived, she had her eyes opened. So it was like she was like choking on something. So tenía los ojos abiertos, right? But when they were talking to her, you know, she looked... Even the EMTs were like, she looked petrified. She had a look of so scared. She didn't know what was going on. She was confused.
But she was alive.
So se la llevan. They transported her, and she was in intensive care. Mm-hmm. They were not sure if she was going to make it, honestly. Back to the letter that I'm going to tell you about.
Wait, how old is she by this point?
She's already in college.
So
about 19, 20. Yeah. So back to the letter. It accounts details about the murder. But once again... we have to remember she was only about 13
when her dad died. When Michael died.
Yeah, exactly. At one point, the investigators think that Ashley is going to die. They're like, she's not doing well. She went to worse from better. And they kept a close eye on her. They were like, they had people outside protecting her from her mom because they're like, we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
They had suspicions already on Stacey from when they interviewed her. And now Ashley's the one that is in the hospital.
Supposedly did it. So they're worried. They're like, okay, if she dies, if she doesn't wake up to tell us that she didn't do this, then technically it's a signed confession.
Is it really signed if it's typed?
I mean, technically it's a confession, right? So they were waiting for her to, hopefully they did the best they could to see if they would wake her up. Against all of the officers standing in front of her and everything, Stacey made her way into the room. And she wanted to be by her daughter's side. Basically, by her daughter's side.
Watching her.
Even though... you know, so on September the 12th, Ashley remembers we're going to go back to September the 12th so I can tell y'all what happened. So by this time, Ashley woke up and she was alive. The investigators asked her, hey, what happened? Tell me, what do you remember last? So this is what she tells them she remembers. She said that it was her first day of college. Ashley was in class and they called her and they told her the officers were in the office in the the main campus office, and they wanted to speak to her. So they go up to her and they told her what they had already told Stacey. Your dad's body was exhumed, and we did find out that there was traces of antifreeze in the system. So Ashley said, I don't know anything about it. She started freaking out. Since the Stacey's phone were tapped, the detectives were able to hear when Ashley calls her mom right after. And it says, mommy, they came to my freaking school. I'm so scared, embarrassed, blah, blah. It was her first day of college. Right. And so Stacey was like, oh my God, they came to your college? Are you okay? Do you want me to pick you up? Like, well, anyway. And so then she's like, no, I have to stay here. It's my first day, Mom.
Yeah.
Like, what,
They already left or whatever.
So she says that around 5 p.m., Stacey tells her daughter, you know what? We've had a long week. It's been rough. How about we go home and we get drunk? So...
You're going to get drunk with your underage daughter?
Yes. So she's like, man, that's so cool. Ashley's like,
sure.
My mom wants to drink with me? Sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
And she said that she couldn't even get through one drink when she felt extremely tired. And she said that it was so weird to her because she had drank before and she had never felt that way with one drink.
Yeah.
But she slept all night, whatever.
She slept through it.
She said she remembers telling her mom, I'm going to lay down because I don't feel well.
Yeah.
And so then the next day, which is September the 14th, whenever, we talked about before, she wakes up and she had a severe hangover, but she went to school. She's like, okay, I'm going to go to school.
Yeah.
And when she came home, her mom tells her, well, let's get drunk again.
La verga.
She's like,
Mom,
fuck. So then, you know what? Okay, and she said, but this time let's get really drunk.
Se estaba muriendo la pobre Ashley.
And so Ashley says...
She was like super hungover.
Yeah, at the same time, dice que le dijo ella, Mom, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't taste good, que le dijo. And it's very strong. Can you add more juice? Or, I don't know, yo creo que le había hecho un mixed drink. Y Stacey le dijo, no, you're going to drink it like this. Le agarraba el straw y lo agarraba el drink así y le dijo que se lo pusiera in the back of her throat y que se lo pasara para que no sintiera el alcohol. Right? So then...
Como si le está dando fucking medicine when you're little.
Yeah, like a little dropper.
Yeah.
No, como si le estuviera dando medicine que te tapan la nariz. And
they're like, nada más,
no pásatelo. And you're like, no me gusta. So Bree returns home about the same time. And Bree said que, Bree was at school.
Oh, yeah. Because she's still in high school.
She's still in high school.
Yeah.
Y dice que she came and finds her sister laid out. Y que she tried to go in there. Que le dijo, Mom, what's wrong with Ashley? Y que le dijo, she tried to open the door. Y que le dijo, dice, my mom came out of nowhere. And she was like, leave her alone. I hope that she sleeps through the night.
What?
Yeah. Que le dijo Stacey. And she said, are you sure she's okay? Y que le dijo su mom, yeah, she's just sleeping. Leave her alone. The morning hit. And Bree hears that her sister is now like como que se quedó con ese pendiente. Y Bree le dijo, you know what? This doesn't sound right. And so she got closer and she hears that her sister is making weird noises.
Yeah.
Entonces, and then she said that she went in the room and she said her eyes were open, glassed over, and that she had thrown up. Y que le dijo, hey, are you okay, sister? Are you okay? Y que she wasn't responding. And she's the one that called 911. Primero. And she said she looked so scared. Once again, the same thing that they had said. She's like, she looked so scared. Of course, we know now they called 911, blah, blah, blah.
So, Stacey luego le quitó el teléfono a Bree, ¿o cómo?
Sí, ella llamó y le quitó el teléfono. But if Bree wouldn't have made that move...
she would have died.
Dude, it would have been only 10 minutes before she would have been out. 10 minutes if it wasn't because of her sister.
Wow.
So, Ashley wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
And... it was because it was found that she had...
De todo esto, Ashley remembers seeing Bree checking up on her?
No, Ashley doesn't remember that. Ashley remembers up to where
su mom was like,
le dijo que se tomara la cesta. Yeah. And so then she wakes up and they're like asking her... Now she's in the hospital. She's up and she sees her mom standing there and they're asking her, what did you do to your stepdad? What did you do to your dad? When did you write this letter? What is going on? And she's like, I didn't do nothing. What are you talking about? Like, she's surprised. She's like, I don't know anything. The last time I remember was drinking with my mom.
And then when she explains what she remembers from that point.
And she also said that she remembers her mom telling her, I love you. And they walked her out. Right after that, they arrested Stacey immediately from the hospital. They didn't even wait for her. So she goes home and
who goes home?
Ashley's trying to recover from everything. At this point, you're trying to recover from almost getting killed by your mother. Not only that, being blamed from killing your stepdad and your own dad,
and then finding out that your mom possibly did that to your dad and your stepdad.
So they did go to court, obviously.
Did they arrest Stacey? Like, what did they tell her?
They arrested Stacey. They take her and they said, okay, we need to, well, let me tell you why. Let me tell you what happened after. So they arrested her on January the 13th, 2009. The court began, and Ashley did have to appear in court. But she said she remembers like she had a stomach ache. It was a knot because it was a year after her mom tried to kill her. Not only that, but you still remember, oh my God, I'm going to see that face of, you're disappointing me. You know, it's her mom. Because before that, she had never been mean to her. She thought she was, good.
She was the favorite, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, you could say. So she states, once again, that she was a little bit worried about confronting her. And even though she had been talking to the district attorney and she was, the district attorney had talked to her and said it's going to be okay, she was still kind of scared, porque, she's going to see her mom. So they did tell her she needed to narrate what happened when she found her dad laying out and all of that stuff. And she explained what happened and her, how her mother instructed her to drink. And she continued to say that they asked her, well, why did you continue to drink even though it was nasty? And she's like, because I trusted her. Yeah. She's my mom.
I bet you're not going to think that your mom is telling you
to drink veneno. Yeah. There's many times when I've even told my kids, no te estoy dando veneno, because you're like, you don't want to drink it or eat it. My son is really picky. So I'm like, no te estoy queriendo dar veneno. And now somebody was actually giving her veneno.
Yeah.
Well, apparently they found that she had given her excessive amounts of painkillers. Excessive amounts. So then they asked her, the detective said, once again, questioned her about the note. Because obviously the defense is trying to make sure that they know that she did it.
Yeah, Ashley.
Right? Ashley, because they're trying to clear Stacey. And she said, when did you write the letter? Why did you write the letter? Again, asking her, and she's like, I didn't write any letter. I don't know what you're talking about. It was just a whole, I didn't do it. Yes, I did it. Whatever. They didn't do it. So the trial lasted about 3 weeks, and it was a large amount of evidence against Stacey. I'm going to tell you a few of the things or evidence that they had against Stacey. One of them was that they did search her computer at home and that they found out that the letter was typed on the computer at 2:27 p.m. The same day that Ashley had called her to tell her that the detectives were there. So she was at school. Right?
Yeah.
Not only that, but
did she type it after she had talked to Ashley?
While she was talking to Stacey.
What?
Not only that, but let me tell you, she was already talking to someone else, to another guy. So they have her on the phone where she was talking to another guy, talking about, hey, what time are we going to meet up? Y que no sé qué. And you can hear her typing. You can hear the tapping of the computer.
So she hung up with Ashley and called, was talking to this other person and still writing the letter.
And she was typing. It was 750 words, and she was going through it. And she didn't put out damn paragraphs, nothing. It was just like nothing but a
run-on sentence.
And there was no one else home to have said that it was them, and Stacey was the only one that was able to write the letter. Not only that, but they asked her, because she did try to take the stand for herself.
Stacey?
Yeah. And they asked her, oh, well, why was there background noise of you typing the letter? Like, it's so dumb. But she said, oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they don't remember. And she said that David got the idea of killing himself because they were watching a Dateline story of true crime. And that's why he wanted to drink the antifreeze.
What was the reason? Just because you guys were going to split up?
Yeah, but not only that, but, you can't say that he didn't know how to work with antifreeze. He had a business.
HVAC
business.
Yeah.
So there was no way that he didn't know what he was doing. Yeah. Right? But also, another thing that they questioned was that how would Ashley confess to the murder of David if he was supposed to be suicide?
Yeah.
So how does that work? And she said she didn't know about that either. And the saddest part is this, Estela. Bree was out in the courtroom waiting for her sister, and she talks about how she was heartbroken because she wanted to be next to her sister, hugging her, holding her hand, and her sister's just, saying exactly what happened and everything. And fucking Stacey is like, no, she didn't. Point the finger at her daughter. No, she didn't.
So what? I don't know if you know, but what happened to Bree while her mom was already like in jail waiting for trial?
I mean, she was just
underage. So
yeah, she was just there with her sister. So that's the saddest part to me is the fact that she kept pointing her fingers at her. On February 5th, 2009, Stacey was found guilty of the murder of her 2 husbands and the attempted murder of her daughter. She was given 25 years to life in prison for Michael and 25 to life for David. They didn't really specify how much they gave her for attempted murder, but I mean, it didn't. At this point, it looks like it was going to be like 50
she was going to be there for a long time.
Yeah, she came out in an interview afterwards in 2005. Dateline did like a story on this.
But I thought this happened in 2009. Yeah.
No. 2009 she was found guilty, and then in 2010 she did the interview.
Yeah.
Well, she did an interview with Dateline. They did a story about her and all of these things. And while she was at the interview, what did she do? Blame her daughter. Todavía. And she said, okay, the only thing that she regrets is because she felt like Bree was the only person that suffered in this whole thing. Was because I don't know.
So she's still sticking to her story.
And in 2012, this is something that I got once again from Bailey's story. I don't know. She said she couldn't find herself anywhere to corroborate this. I don't know, but I mean, I wouldn't put it past her. So in 2012, it was confirmed that there was an investigation on Stacey because her father had been hospitalized and he was to be released in a few days, but he died on February 26th of 2002. And just the day before, Stacey had walked in and they see her with the cup, and he died the next day.
And then this was before Michael, right?
Mm-hmm. Not only that.
No, this was after Michael. After Michael was in 2000.
Yeah. Not only that, but then she became the sole owner of all of his estate, of everything.
De su dad.
And then not only that, but guess what? She made sure that they cremated his body.
I mean, the patterns show that could be a possibility to have been.
I wouldn't put it past her either.
Yeah. I mean, because, obviously, let's say if she did do that, we're not saying that she did.
No.
But it would have been Michael in 2000, su papá in 2002, and then David in 2005.
Mm-hmm. Until she was stopped because...
And then her daughter. Yeah, in 2009.
Yeah. And...
What a crazy bitch.
That is crazy. But let me tell you something about her. She was serving her little time. In June 11, 2016, only 7 years of serving her sentence, Miss Stacey was found dead in her cell. Yep. On an apparent heart attack. And there was no evidence of foul play.
You know what that is? It's karma.
It's karma. And based on the way that I feel, I feel kind of bad because... the girls are never going to be able to have...
I mean, how do you get over that? Obviously with a lot of therapy, but how do you get over that your mom tried to kill you? She'd kill your dad and your fucking stepdad, and she'd probably kill your grandpa.
She tried to kill you and try to kill your grandpa, and on top of that, she still blamed you for it? I don't know.
And the sisters, I hope...
Oh, they're really close. They never talked to her again. They never talked to her after the trial or before the trial. And I don't blame them 100%. And whenever, in one of the interviews that I watched, they wouldn't even call her mom. They would just call her Stacey, and
good for them.
I completely agree. But you know what? As coming from a person that doesn't have a good relationship with their mom, you inside still, no matter what, feel like you still want that nice relationship with, or you wish it was different. Yeah, there's still hope. And I mean, at least now she's dead, so they don't. I'm sorry, that sounds horrible, but at least now she's not here around, and they don't feel guilty for that. Yeah, because she basically once again said it was her fault. She did it. She know what she did. What did she do?
Nothing. She just needed somebody to, she needed a scapegoat. So
yeah. So
damn, that was crazy.
That was the story of Stacey Caster and Ashley Wallace. Yeah. Tell us what you think. What do you think?
People are not well.
They're not well. Yeah.
And let's say she was doing it, like I see, she was doing it for money, right?
That's what they say. All the reports that I read everywhere was monetary. Yeah. But
promotive. I mean,
she did keep all of her dad's estate, and then she kept all of David's estate, and then she kept the $55,000 that Michael had. I just feel like, let's be honest. Let's just be nice to each other. If you don't want to be with somebody, just leave. Don't kill them. Don't give them antifreeze.
Just leave.
Just leave. And rat poisoning.
I don't know.
But let us know what you think. Mm-hmm. And how did you like this
episode?
Rate us.
Yes.
And please download our episodes. You can follow us on Instagram at
Cafecito and Crime Pod.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what to say. I was just like in shock. I kind of wanted...
You need to digest.
I needed to digest it because I didn't want to like leave anything out. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful night, day, whatever it is.
Bye.
Bye.